David Muir, ABC's World News Tonight, America's most watched newscast. Now streaming same day with all the breaking news of the day on Disney+. Most watched, most trusted. Now on Disney+ every night.
Tonight, multiple deadly attacks spanning the globe. Students shot at an elite American university. The Jewish community targeted in Australia on the first night of Hanukkah. And Trump vows retaliation after American soldiers were killed in an attack in Syria. We begin at Brown University, where gunmen opened fire on students studying for final exams. School buildings locked down. Students sheltering in place, piling up chairs and tables against doors. Hundreds of officers rushing to the scene. Police released footage of who they believe may be a person of interest, and tonight one man in his 20s is detained. Law enforcement sources say he's from Wisconsin. How they tracked him down. We speak with the teaching assistant who saw panic in his students' eyes and what he saw when he came face to face with the gunman. Team coverage with Whit Johnson and Pierre Thomas. Chaos in Sydney, Australia. More than a dozen people killed, hundreds seen running for their lives as shots rang out at the iconic Bondi Beach. What we've learned about the suspects, a father and son accused of targeting a Hanukkah celebration. Plus the remarkable moment when a bystander heroically confronted one of the two gunmen, wresting the weapon from his hands and suffering gunshot wounds. Tonight, security has increased at synagogues throughout this country. Also tonight, a dangerous blast of Arctic air and the biggest December snowfall in New York City and Philadelphia in 7 years. Highway spinouts, flight cancellations, and ground stops ordered at several major airports. Right behind it, a blast of brutal cold. Our weather team times it all out. U.S. military jets fly over Syria. 2 American soldiers from Iowa and their interpreter dead after an ISIS attack. President Trump promises to inflict significant damage on those responsible. The frightening moments after United Airlines jet lost power in one engine during takeoff in Virginia. The jet forced to dump fuel on its harrowing trip back to the airport. Plus, late word, a JetBlue plane narrowly avoided a collision with a U.S. military aircraft over the Caribbean. ESPN reports the University of Michigan is now investigating its entire athletic department just days after firing its head football coach, who was later charged with felony home invasion and other counts. History is made as the Heisman Trophy is awarded. And America strong tonight as beloved entertainer Dick Van Dyke turns 100. He shares one of his secrets to a long life.
From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is World News Tonight.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us on this busy Sunday. I'm Lindsay Davis. We begin tonight with breaking news in 2 horrific mass shootings, one on the campus of Brown University in Providence, Rhode Island, and another on Australia's iconic Bondi Beach. At Brown University, terrified students were seen running from gunfire as others barricaded themselves inside classrooms. 2 students were killed and 9 others injured. Police released footage of who they believe may be a person of interest. Authorities detaining a man in his 20s hours later, and we want to warn you that some images may be disturbing. Overseas in Sydney, Australia, this man is being hailed a hero for wresting the gun away from one of the alleged attackers the Jewish community targeted on the first night of Hanukkah. The victims of that attack were honored tonight at the National Menorah Lighting Ceremony in Washington, D.C. We'll have more on that attack in a moment, but first, ABC's Whit Johnson reports from the scene on Brown University's campus.
Tonight, a person of interest has been detained after a deadly mass shooting on the campus of Brown University as students were studying for final exams.
We have somebody that's at the police station, a person of interest, and we're going to continue to build that case in order to be able to charge that person.
More than 400 law enforcement officers, including the FBI and ATF, swarming the scene. Investigators releasing these images of who they believe may be the shooter in dark clothing, calmly walking the streets of Providence. Hours later, a man detained nearly 20 miles away. Sources say 2 weapons recovered.
In front of the Sciences Library on the Manning Walk for a male shot in the back.
The first 911 calls coming in shortly after 4 p.m. yesterday. Police say a gunman entered the Barris and Hawley Engineering building and opened fire on the first floor. The doors of the building unlocked because of final exams.
We heard commotion outside the door of what sounded like students screaming and like the sound of gunshots. Around 5 seconds or so later, we see a gunman walk in on the left-hand side.
Senior Joseph Aduro was leading an economic studies session with around 60 other students when he says a masked man entered the lecture hall armed with a large gun.
He entered the room and you could just see the panic in all the students' eyes. I was standing in the front, so as soon as he walked in, he immediately saw me and I immediately saw him. And then I look to my right and I see a bunch of students running down the stairs, running out the door, jumping on the ground, just whatever it takes to stay alive.
When you made eye contact with him, what did your mind tell you in terms of what was happening in that moment?
When I saw him, I saw a gun. The gun was so big and long that I genuinely thought, like, okay, this is the end of the road for me.
How soon did he start shooting after he entered the room?
He just started shooting right away. There was no hesitation.
Students shot around him, Oduro guiding others to hide behind a desk, calling police and sending these text messages to his family.
I said, I love you all. I love you all. There's an active shooter. Please pray. And then I texted my parents, oh my goodness, he's in the room. God, I'm so scared.
Across the campus, terrified students receiving cell phone alerts, telling them to lock doors, silence phones, stay hidden. Students piling tables and chairs against doors, barricading themselves inside classrooms. Police rushing to the engineering building, but they say the suspect had already fled through the side of the complex. President Trump monitoring from the White House.
I've been fully briefed on the Brown University situation, what a terrible thing it is. And all we can do right now is pray for the victims and for those that were very badly hurt.
Brown University and the surrounding area locked down for hours as police search for the killer.
Police! Police! Providence Police! Hands!
Heavily armed officers evacuating students.
Just keep your hands up for us.
Oduro helping to carry a woman shot in both of her legs to safety. At least 2 students killed, 9 others injured. Do you believe most of those students were in your classroom?
I think all of them were in my classroom.
The tragedy unfolding right before the holidays. Tonight, a Christmas tree and menorah lighting ceremony turning into a vigil for a grieving community.
I think the most important thing that we can do is just be there for each other. We just have to continue to be strong, because once we bow our heads down and we just give up, we let the killer win.
And Lindsay, tonight Brown University has canceled all remaining classes and finals for the semester. 8 students still remain in the hospital, where most are in critical but stable condition. 1 student is critical. Lindsay.
We are hoping they will all recover. Whit, thank you. Let's get right to ABC's Chief Justice Correspondent Pierre Thomas for more on that person of interest. Pierre, what more are you learning tonight?
Well, law enforcement sources are describing the person of interest as a man in his mid-20s from Wisconsin. Tonight, search warrants are being executed and a deep dive into the man's background are underway. One of the key moments in the manhunt came after a witness described a gun with a distinctive characteristic seen at the attack. Sources say they recovered a gun fitting that description, along with an additional firearm, when the person of interest was detained at a hotel in Coventry, Rhode Island. Authorities are investigating whether the man may have ties to Brown University, and there's a heavy emphasis tonight to continue to canvass the area around the campus for additional footage from cell phones and cameras.
And Pierre, tell us about the threat environment both here at home and around the world.
Well, FBI and Homeland Security officials have been warning that the holidays are a time when law enforcement should be especially on guard. A joint intelligence bulletin issued on November 26 flatly states there's a heightened threat of violence from potential attackers, including so-called lone wolves, throughout the winter holidays. Today, cities including D.C. and New York are stepping up security for the first night of Hanukkah after authorities say a pair of gunmen targeted a Hanukkah celebration in Australia, killing more than a dozen people. Tonight, law enforcement across the nation are being told to be vigilant, Lindsay.
Pierre, our thanks to you. Overseas now to that deadly terror attack at a Hanukkah event in Australia. Dramatic video shows the moments a bystander rushed in and disarmed one of the alleged shooters. At least 15 people were killed and dozens more injured. The victims range in age from 10 to 87. Police say the 2 suspects are a father and son. Here's ABC's Marcus Moore.
Tonight, chaos at Australia's famed Bondi Beach. Hundreds running for their lives as a pair of gunmen opened fire on a crowd gathered to celebrate the first night of Hanukkah. The suspects identified as a father and his son, killing at least 15 people and leaving 40 more wounded. Authorities saying the bloodshed could have been much worse if not for the heroic actions of a bystander. On Sunday night, a celebration underway, people smiling and laughing. But the festive mood quickly turned to terror.
Everyone was just running, and there were bullets, and there were so many of them, and we were really scared.
Video showing two gunmen, a 50-year-old father and his 24-year-old son, perched atop a pedestrian bridge, firing long guns. More than 1,000 people were on the popular beach at the time, victims ranging from 10 to 87 years old. Among those killed was one of the organizers of the event, Rabbi Eli Schlanger, seen here on Instagram, who served as a rabbi and chaplain in the Bondi community for 18 years. But despite the danger, a brave bystander confronting one of the gunmen, jumping from behind a car, wrestling for control of the weapon. That Good Samaritan, who police have identified as Ahmad al-Ahmad, suffering multiple gunshot wounds, currently recovering in the hospital. And tonight, he's being hailed around the world as a hero.
A very, very brave person, actually, who went and attacked frontally one of the shooters and saved a lot of lives.
Lindsay, police say one suspect, the father, was killed, the other, his son, taken into custody in critical condition. Authorities saying they also found 2 improvised explosive devices at the scene, now calling this a terrorist attack targeting the Jewish community. Lindsay.
Marcus Moore for us. Thank you. We turn now to the other major news this Sunday night, that massive winter storm, the biggest December snowfall for New York City and Philadelphia since 2018. The storm is causing significant flight disruptions across the Northeast. More than 1,000 flights canceled in West Virginia. Hazardous driving conditions, the storm triggering multiple crashes. And right behind that snow, a blast of dangerous cold. We'll get to the forecast in a moment. But first, ABC's Andrew Dimbert reports from New York.
Tonight, a massive winter storm slamming the East Coast, causing treacherous travel conditions and major flight disruptions at airports across the Northeast.
I didn't know it was going to be this bad.
Up to 8 inches of snow falling in parts of Pennsylvania, New York, and New Jersey. The biggest December snowfall for Philadelphia and New York City since 2018.
It's been years since New York has seen this much snow in the heart of the city. Tourists and locals alike flocking to Central Park to take it all in.
It's a winter wonderland. I loved it.
Nearly a foot of snow falling in parts of West Virginia, causing whiteout conditions. Multiple crashes reported in Morgantown. This van flipping over in snowy conditions in Eden Township, Pennsylvania overnight. Plow drivers racing to keep up.
We work almost all night.
Air travel also hit hard. More than 1,000 flights canceled nationwide. Ground stops reported across the Northeast. And behind all that snow, a brutal blast of cold.
The trouble is the temperatures are below freezing and they don't get above freezing again until Tuesday afternoon. So there's really good reason to kind of get outside right now and clear everything out.
Crews racing to clean up before that dangerous deep freeze.
And Lindsay, with those temperatures dropping again tonight, officials are warning of a refreezing of roads, which could turn icy and dangerous. Lindsay?
Lots of concern about black ice there. Andrew, thank you. Let's get right to meteorologist Danny Beckstrom from our New York station WABC. And Danny, millions are bracing for that deep freeze. What can we expect?
Oh, Lindsay, I'm already feeling it tonight here in Central Park, the Northeast, for significant snowfall of the season moving out as that brutal cold barges in, a deep freeze that will keep streets slick for days. 2 to 4 inches of snow for the major cities along the I-95 corridor, but twice that in parts of New Jersey and on Long Island. The Arctic front now opens the door for dangerous cold. Millions will wake up to sub-zero wind chills Monday morning from Green Bay down to Louisville over to upstate New York, with the deep freeze holding into Tuesday. New York and Philly feel like the single digits early Monday. And that Arctic air also diving south. Cold weather advisories for almost the entire southeast. Freeze warnings in effect as far south as Houston and the Florida Panhandle into Monday morning. The new week also brings a new round of flood concerns in the Pacific Northwest as another atmospheric river takes aim. Flood watch is back in effect in western Washington Monday as several more inches of rain revive the risk for river flooding in an already waterlogged area. Lindsay?
Flooding and frigid temperatures. Danny, our thanks to you. Overseas now, and President Trump is threatening retaliation after the deaths of 3 Americans, 2 soldiers and 1 U.S. interpreter in an ISIS attack in Syria. U.S. military planes were seen flying over the area after the deadly attacks. 3 service members were injured. ABC senior White House correspondent Selena Wang has more.
Tonight, military warplanes patrolling the skies above Syria after 3 Americans were killed. The Pentagon says 2 U.S. soldiers and 1 U.S. civilian interpreter were ambushed on Saturday by a lone ISIS gunman while supporting counterterrorism operations against the Islamic State. 3 American service members also wounded in the attack. Video obtained by Al Jazeera and verified by ABC News shows armored vehicles flying American flags driving through Palmyra, Syria before the deadly attack. Officials say the victims were all members of the Iowa National Guard.
It's hard enough to be away from your loved ones during the holidays to have them deployed, let alone have them killed in action.
The president telling me the U.S. will respond.
Mr. President, will the U.S. retaliate against ISIS?
Yeah, we will. This marks the first American military deaths in Syria since the fall of dictator Bashar al-Assad. Just last month, Trump met with Syria's new president, the first Syrian head of state to ever visit the White House. And Lindsay, while the U.S. has scaled back its presence in Syria, about 1,000 American troops still remain in the eastern part of the country. But tonight, some lawmakers are questioning whether U.S. troops are still needed in Syria. Lindsay?
Selena Wang from the White House, thank you. We turn now to yet another frightening close call for flyers. A United Airlines flight was forced to return to Dulles International Airport after an engine lost power during takeoff. Authorities say a piece of the engine cover separated and caught fire, sparking a brush fire on the runway. Here's ABC's Alex Perchet.
Frightening moments on board this United Airlines flight bound for Tokyo after one of its engines failed shortly after takeoff.
He's currently in an emergency condition. He will be coming back to the airport.
The pilot reassuring passengers over the intercom.
The pilot said also that, hey, there's absolutely nothing to be worried about. We are perfectly fine flying with just the right engine.
The Boeing 777 then dropping fuel at 5,000 feet to lighten the load before returning to Dulles International outside Washington, D.C. Officials say a piece of the engine cover had separated and caught fire, sparking a brush fire, a trail of smoke rising along the runway. All 290 people on board landing safely.
Still trying to cool off the landing gear. It's very hot. They blew some tires on landing.
It comes just a month after a UPS plane crashed into a ball of fire moments after takeoff in Louisville, killing 14. Officials now releasing the desperate 911 calls from that day.
It went straight and down and caught on fire. So many people, you need to send everybody. Oh my God, I'm freaking out.
A preliminary report from the NTSB found the left engine separated from the plane.
Alex joins us now. Alex, we're learning about a close call involving a JetBlue flight just after takeoff. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, that's right, Lindsay. A JetBlue pilot says he narrowly avoided a midair collision with a U.S. military aircraft that he says injured his flight path as that jet was climbing after takeoff bound for New York from the Caribbean island of Curacao. The pilot says he saw the refueling plane in front of them and had to stop their climb until that military plane passed. And Lindsay, tonight, Southern Command says it's reviewing the incident.
More scary moments. Alex, thank you. And there's still much more ahead on World News Tonight this Sunday. The University of Michigan reportedly expands its investigation after the arrest of its fired football coach. And history is made as America's top college football player is chosen. Next tonight, ESPN is reporting the University of Michigan has commissioned a full investigation into the practices and culture of its entire athletic department. This follows a firing of head football coach Sharon Moore for what the university said was an inappropriate relationship with a staff member. Moore was later arrested and charged with felony home invasion and 2 misdemeanors, including stalking. He's pleaded not guilty. When we come back, a first in the history of the Heisman Trophy.
There is a lot more weight than that.
To the index now, history was made as the Heisman Trophy was awarded. Indiana quarterback Fernando Mendoza was named college football's top player. He's the first Hoosier to win the trophy in its 90-year history. Mendoza led Indiana to a perfect regular season and #1 seed in the playoffs. In accepting the award, he said it's really a credit to his team. When we come back, a new milestone for one of America's favorite entertainers. Finally tonight, America Strong. One of America's most beloved entertainers turned 100 years old this weekend. Dick Van Dyke kept us laughing for generations, dating back to a sitcom in the early 1960s, and he dazzled us with his performance in Mary Poppins. He could light up a stage well into his 90s. Dick Van Dyke says one of his secrets for longevity, it's simple, keep moving. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Lindsay Davis in New York. Good night.
David Muir, the most watched newscast in America. And now, ABC's World News Tonight has won the Emmy for Best Live News Program for the third year in a row.